We've all been there, right? You go on a fun little road trip shoot with a friend, have a great time, get back to your house, pop your SD card in your computer, toss those images into Lightroom, and stare at them in horror when you realize that your images are so terrible that you start to wonder if your buddy swapped SD cards with you when you weren't looking, because there is no way you could have taken images this bad. Or maybe that's just me. Either way, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking you through my first Lightroom tutorial, and I'm going to showcase how I took a not so good photo and made it mediocre enough for Instagram. And I say that only half jokingly. It's going to be a pretty aggressive edit. We're going to be really cranking those sliders and tweaking a lot of things because the photo definitely needed a lot of work. I don't normally edit this heavily, but this photo needed it. Also, one more thing, just so I don't waste your time. If you want, check out my Instagram, see if you like my work, see if you like my editing style. If you don't, move on, no hard feelings, but if it looks okay to you, then stay tuned and let's get into this tutorial. Alright, so we're in Lightroom now, and just in case there's any beginners out there, I'd like to explain that the whole reason this works is because we shot in RAW. If you don't know what RAW is, it's essentially an uncompressed, bigger file with lots of information. When you take a picture in RAW, it takes up megabytes and megabytes of space, but it allows you to do edits like this in case something does go wrong. Drinking some tea this afternoon. Alright, so as you can see, we have the before here on the left and the after on the right. I definitely like the after more. You know, the before has that silhouette look, but it definitely wasn't the shot I was trying to get. Essentially what happened is I was trying to take a long exposure to get these blurred out clouds when I was taking the photo. But the sun was setting. As usual, I was shooting with my buddy Tyler Pearson, Instagram linked right here. And when we go shoot, we're often late. So when we got to the spot, it was like 15 minutes before sunset. And when I say sunset, I mean like 15 minutes before the sun is set. So we didn't have a lot of time. I actually threw on a 10-stop neutral density filter. That was a bad move. I was trying to get a long exposure, so normally you do need a neutral density filter, but while I was taking these exposures, the sun was setting and was getting darker and darker, so my first one was underexposed, my next one was underexposed, and I was running out of time, so I took it off, and I took this, which was a very long shot, 164 seconds, f14, but it was at ISO 100, so we didn't get too much noise in the photo, which is good. But while the sky looks properly exposed, all the foreground is a little dark, but thankfully it's not completely silhouetted out. As you can see, we still have some detail in here. So that's why this worked, and we have something we can work with. Alright, so taking a look at the original photo again, I'm going to make a snapshot of this. If you don't use snapshots, they're really useful. We'll just call this one unedited. But snapshots are super useful. If you don't use them, you should. Super helpful as you're editing to see different changes you've made and quickly cycle through them. So looking at this photo, first thing I see is that the sky looks okay, but this foreground is just way more underexposed. Sometimes I like the silhouette look, sometimes I don't. For this shot, I was going for a little more of an HDR look, so I'm going to bring up the exposure. And as you can see, we're starting to get some of that detail back in the shadows, but our skies are getting a little blown out, so I'm actually just going to go to 0.71. Yeah, I think that's good for now. So we've bumped up the exposure. Doesn't look a ton different now. Arguably, it almost looks worse, but we're going to fix that. So another thing I noticed is the photo's a little cool. It's hard to tell right now, but I'm just going to bring it up a little here, get a little bit warmer. Again, kind of looks a little worse right now, but stay with me. Normally I like to add some contrast. Right now I'm going to leave it. So we're going to bring those highlights down, and you'll quickly see that we get a lot of detail back in the highlights, starting to look better again. Shadows, I want to bring those up, not too aggressively. Some people like to get like a perfectly exposed photo all the way around. I personally like to have a little bit darker shadows, a little bit brighter skies, because it's more like an HDR, but it doesn't look fake, if you get what I'm saying. So right there, that's looking okay. We'll play with the whites. I like to bring them up a little. That gets the skies a little bit brighter. We'll go there. And the blacks, we're gonna bring, I'm gonna leave the blacks for now. Clarity, one thing I'm gonna notice looking at this, we've definitely lost some clarity in the shadows. Let's bring that up a tad for now, just a bit. Dehaze, we'll do a little with. I don't like to crank it too much, you get some crazy looks, but it definitely helps our skies out, as you can see. You get it like that, way too much. For now, we'll just go to 29. And with this photo, we're really gonna have to keep going back to sliders because a lot of things change. What I like with this though is it really pronounces those blurred out clouds. So you can see them here, which is the look I definitely wanted to go for. What did I say, like 29? Yeah, it looks good for now. Vibrance, always good to add a little bit. We'll go 19. I don't like to touch saturation a ton, but I don't know, so I had like 5 for now. One thing I noticed as we did all this is the photo starts to look a lot cooler again. So make it a little warmer. Go there for now. I like how that's starting to look. The tone curve, I like to do more in the basic tab, but we'll play with the tone curve to see what we can get. I like those highlights brought up a little. Just helps the skies. See that? That just starts blowing them out. Leave that for now. The darks, I still want to bring out a little more detail in the darks and the shadows. So we'll go quick before and after. You do this hitting Y for those of you who don't know. And as you can see, this is more the look I was going for. Nowhere near where we want it, but it's a decent start. Okay, so this isn't looking too bad now. There's a lot to do, but we've made some progress. So I like to just take a snapshot. I'll call this video edit 1. And yeah, you know, that's not too bad. But let's see what else we can do. So taking a look at the HSL tab, I'm going to start messing with the hues. You don't really have any reds in here. It's not going to do much. The oranges, ooh, so the oranges are mostly affecting right down here. I don't like, when we bring it up here, it kind of gets some really ugly colors coming out. I like the browns and the oranges. Kind of matches everything else. So I'll just slide this a little bit to the left. Yellows, really don't like what it does that way. I like this kind of orangey or golden color, so we'll go with that. Greens, I kind of want to bring those out, but I'm just going to leave them. Now this is where it gets exciting, because this is where we're going to mess with the skies, so you can play with this aqua. So if we go all the way to the right, it almost starts to look purple. Don't like that. I definitely like this lighter blue color. I feel like the aqua, if it starts to look teal, it's a little obnoxious for me. I almost just want to leave them. Maybe I'll just the slightest bit of teal, just because I kind of like that color scheme. Then I go into the blues. Honestly, I don't want to tweak them much. I'm just going to leave the blues. Going to the purples, it's not really going to do a lot. Same with the magenta. Okay, looking at this again though, I don't like how dark these rocks are. One thing I really like to do is I like to bring up the shadows. I'm going to bring them up even a little more, like I said, kind of an aggressive edit. There, and that's a little brighter than I'd like. But if we bring down the blacks, we can get a little bit of that contrast back. And I like that. These skies, they're still a little blown out for me. We have a lot of white here and here. So if I take those highlights down, just, so see that looks too much. I want them to look brighter, but I like that. That's not too bad. So now I'm just gonna add a little bit of contrast. And honestly, that's kind of too much because we've added contrast with the other sliders. Maybe just a little there. But one thing that's really starting to bug me is we're getting some, like a green tint on this whole bottom half. Not liking that at all. So let's bump that tint. So here you can see it looks terrible, way too magenta. Just a little bit is the key. So 9 is what we started at. I feel like that's added too much already. I want to try and get in the middle there with 16. And that's better, that's better. So these bushes down here and stuff, they're really not very sharp. There's not a lot of detail in them. Don't like that. I mean, for being shot at f14, I wish there was more to them. So what I'm gonna actually do is bump the clarity a little more. See if that helps. That's too much for me. I don't know, maybe we'll go to 26. Still don't love that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go all the way down to our sharpening. Again, this is gonna be a little bit of an aggressive edit. I'm gonna go all the way up to like 100. I feel like it's looking a little better. Something kind of weird that's going on is we have this front part looking a lot brighter than all this back here. So we're gonna have to bust out the adjustment brush for that. We're gonna hit Control or Command plus just to zoom in a little. And then I honestly just like to get a color right off the bat. Got a good little feather on there. And all of this, it just looks kind of overexposed. I'm gonna try and even up here, all this top part, Command minus or Control minus to zoom out. And I really just wanna select all this that's brighter and drag this back to 0, just get it invisible. I just want to try and bring that exposure down. I don't know, I mean that looks like too much, but even just a little, you can see that, I don't know, it just looks less fake now. And now I'm just going to take another snapshot. I'll call this video edit 2. But one thing that I'm really starting to notice is this photo is just too cool. Like even these shadows still just have a blue green look to them. Not really liking that. I'm gonna bring this way up, and that might be a little much, but I honestly want to bring it all the way up there. And that's changed a lot of what we've done, but it also makes it look, oh, as you can see, just zoomed in, we have some chromatic aberration all around this. That's what these green highlighted areas are. So we're gonna scroll down. I think the best way to do this, you can try a profile. So if you just go to Lens Corrections, Profile, remove Chromatic Aberration, sometimes that works, and I think that's going to be good enough for me. If it doesn't work, you can go to Manual, and you can mess around with the purple and green here, but that did the trick. But we've still got that green tint showing up again. So 16, 21 almost looks magenta. 18, I really want to go to 19. Perfectionist, I know. And now that we've brought that warmness up, we have some more highlighted areas that I'm just not a huge fan of. I'm going to try and dehaze it a little more. I like that. This foreground might even be a little bright for me. Maybe try and bring those shadows down just a tad. I like that. I could use some more color, so we'll go with the vibrance. Way too much. I'll go with 33 for now. We're going to save this once again as a snapshot, so we're just going to call it video edit 3. Now this is why I like to take snapshots. If we go to unedited, don't really like that. Would not post that to my Instagram. If we go to edit 1, a little better, but it doesn't look good. Edit 2, okay, like I like that better. Edit 3, whoa. So one of the big changes we did was the temperature. You can see it goes from 13,000 to 35,000. I love that. I love that look. You can see we've changed the look of the photo a lot, and I think in a good way. So let's keep going. And you know what? Screw it. I want a good looking photo, and I'm going to get aggressive with the sliders. So we're going to get that dehaze a little higher. I'm going to bump the clarity. And the reason for that is I still don't really like how these bushes and stuff look. You can see we go too much. It just kind of starts to look like too much, way too over edited. I don't know, I could see it going 36? What was that before? 26. Yeah, I want more than 26. I like that better. Now, as you can see, I'm jumping all over the place because this one takes a lot of work. My first edit took me a long time. I have a general idea of what I want now, but we're going to jump back to the HSL tab. And we're going to go to that saturation. I want these skies popping. I want them vibrant. I want them popping, but I don't want like this dead grass and stuff standing out. So, HSL tab comes to save the day. Let's go to saturation. Let's go to that blue, and that's way too much, but I want to go up to like 40, and we'll take these yellows. Now the yellow gets oversaturated pretty quick right down here in that pocket, so maybe we'll just go to 11, see if our oranges can help the rest of it. Oh, that's doing a little bit. The thing about the orange though is it is getting the foreground, so we gotta be careful. Maybe let's go there. And the yellows definitely are more saturated, so is this aqua gonna help us? Just looks kind of fake when we throw the aqua in. Add the blues a little more. And I like that our sky is popping. And if you want to get creative with these snapshots, we'll call this poppin' sky. And before that, I'm going to actually put edit 4. So we kind of know what we've changed. So in my opinion, that looks a lot better. I am going to get a little risky with it and bring out these shadows, potentially even a little more. I'm going to bring them way up. I like how that looks. Let's get this out of the way, so let's go up to here. Let's go crop. Since this is for Instagram, do 8 by 10. And I want the skies in there, but I don't want a ton. I also don't want a ton of this hill down here. Maybe something like that. Didn't really change it much. That looks good. You know, you can try and mess around with these and use like the rule of thirds. It's like 1/3 sky. That looks okay, but I feel like there's too much sky. So we're just going to go back to how it's like not enough. I like that. We'll go with that for now. If you want, you can just call it video edit 5 cropped. And I'm actually taking more snapshots than I normally would, but I'm just showing you how useful they are. You know, we can cycle these. 1, terrible. 2, terrible. 3, better. 4, better. 5, better. And I've changed my mind a little on this. I need some detail up here, really dark. I think the best way to affect these is go to our darks and our tone curve. Bring that up a tad, but I still do want that contrast. And in all honesty, there's still too much blown out in the sky. Can I? See, I don't want them to look dark though. See, that doesn't look like this should be darker anymore. So if we play with the whites, no, I don't like that. It'll do for video purposes. I am going to go in the split toning just a little, and that's going to help with those skies, bringing out some more color. So I want a little bit more blue in my sky. So we'll go, you know, 206, whatever. So you can see if I crank up saturation, way too blue. But you start to realize that these skies still aren't that saturated. So if we just add, you want to be careful, you just want to add a touch. But even like that much makes a big difference. So we just cycle back before that. Bam, skies look a lot more colorful. Shadows, just gonna leave that for now. If we zoom in, these shadows are a bit noisy, so we can try to smooth that out with our noise reduction. If we go that much, it kind of starts to look fake, and we lose a lot of detail, but we do want to get rid of some of that noise. I don't know, I'll just go to 20, see if we can help a little with the sharpening. I'm gonna bring it down actually to like 15. It didn't stand out too much before. I just want to try and get rid of a little, but a lot of it is just micro adjustments now. It's definitely a tricky photo to edit, that's for sure, since dehaze isn't really helping us anymore. I want more color in the skies. That's really what I want right now. I'm still kind of iffy about these kind of blown out parts, but at the same time, since it's like dark up front, it would make sense that the sun's behind, because the sun actually is behind. But I do want more color. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab an adjustment brush, and I'm going to try and select these skies. This is, like I said, it's a little bit intensive for one photo, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Also, while I'm just painting all this away, I want you to know that if you have any questions, definitely ask in the comment section down below. I'm not explaining everything in great detail. It's kind of an intermediate tutorial, but if you have questions, definitely don't hesitate to ask. If there's like a keyboard shortcut I just forgot to explain, or just some step, or you want to know why I did something, or if you have a better idea of how to do stuff, yeah, just like let me know. I'm definitely open to talking with you guys. Okay, so we've roughly selected our skies. Obviously I didn't just turn it pink, that's just so I can see what I've selected. There we go. So now that I've selected it all, make that invisible. And I want more color in these skies, but I don't want more color in the foreground, so that's why we selected the skies. Saturation, so that starts to look fake. 30, it's a little oversaturated, but man, if we just bring that to like 20, just see how that looks before and after. Oh, much better. I like those saturated skies. Let's go back to that. Okay, so we're back here. Now, can I play with these highs? Like I said, I want this blown out area gone if possible. I don't think I can get it gone, but I can maybe minimize it a little. So if I bring down the highlights and just bring that back with the exposure. Does that make any difference? I like that. Cool. And while we have this brush, why not see what we can do with it? So, do not like the warmer skies. But make them cooler, brings a little more blue. Maybe a little, doesn't matter a ton right now. Whoa, don't want to do that. I do want to kind of exaggerate these blurs a bit, make them stand out. So maybe I'll put a little, just a hint of clarity there. But this photo is looking pretty good now. So let's call this Video Edit 6 Painted Skies. So looking at it again, and you'll notice this when you're editing photos, you know, sometimes you just keep going back to things. For me, it's this crop. I want less of this bottom, so I guess I'll have to put a little more sky in. And while we're at it, I want to center it. Now it looks pretty darn centered. It just feels like, if you're in calculus, you might get this. It just feels like there's like a greater area on this side just looking at it, and I think that's why it feels like kind of left justified. You know, take the integral of this curve. Okay, never mind. It's tough because it's like close here, but don't worry about that. Okay, so this is looking pretty good, but the elephant in the room here, every time I've zoomed in, you're like, hey, Josh, there's confetti sprinkled all over these shadows you brought up. Long explanation short, those are what we call hot pixels. The reason is my sensor got too hot. When you take an exposure like this, sometimes they show up. Super prominent long exposures. This one was over 3 minutes. Oh, sorry, just under 3 minutes. I've been out of school a while. That's why these show up. They do kind of ruin the photo, but thankfully there's a very easy fix. So I'm gonna call this good. That's how I saved the photo. Look at the before and after. Bam! Like, totally different photo, but this is something I'd consider posting to Instagram. We'll call this just Video Edit 7 Final. Bam. Compare it to what I posted in my original edit. So kind of similar. It does. So here's my final. I like, so my original edit was definitely a bit different, but not substantially, same idea. I like the other one I did better, but that one took me probably like an hour. This one took a lot less. Anyways, that's how I saved the picture, and to me this is good enough for Instagram. But again, we've got these hot pixels. So real quick, file, export, edited for video. So bam, let's open up Photoshop, and while Photoshop's opening, I'm gonna go find where I saved that picture. Alright, so Photoshop's open, drag that into there. Whoa, don't want to crop that. Bam! So we've got this in Photoshop now, and if we just zoom in, again, Command plus, Control plus, Mac or Windows. Oh my gosh, we've got this gross looking confetti everywhere. Like, it's just dotting our picture, and I actually noticed that when I was trying to post it to Instagram, and I was like, oh, it's ruined, but it's actually not. So there's this really cool feature. If we go to Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches. This is going to pop up. I like to just leave the radius at 1 pixel. You can mess around with it, just see what works best for you. So this is what we're looking at. All this confetti, obviously we crank it down here, it all goes away, but we lose a lot of detail in our photo. We don't want that. So just kind of look at it. Keep an eye out on this in your actual photo. I found that in my case, if we took it quite a bit down, so maybe even like 60, it doesn't look bad here, doesn't look too bad here. Really, at this size, we don't really lose too much noticeable detail until we get significantly below 100. I'll go to 65. You know, mess around with it, see what works for you. And if we zoom in, okay, so zooming in, we'll see they're still there. So, you know, it's up to your discretion. So what I'm actually going to do is go back to noise, go back to dust and scratches, and I'm going to bring it down to 50. I think once you start to get below 50, you start to compromise some details. But I don't know if you remember what it looked like before. This is significantly better. Definitely good enough, unless you're zooming in, pixel peeping. Look at this photo now. You would never know those were there. Alright, so hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. It was my first one. I know I didn't explain everything, but hopefully at the very least you found some entertainment out of it, and maybe you learned a thing or two just by watching me edit, and that'd be totally awesome. Hopefully that was worth your time. Now, like I said, this was a pretty aggressive edit. The original photo was not exposed as well as it could have been, and there's a lot of details gone. There's a lot of things we did that would not make a good print. But for me, I just wanted to make sure I had something to post after going out and shooting for Instagram, and this photo is going to look totally fine. In fact, it's on my Instagram now if you want to go look at it. I think it looks fine. With that being said, the moral of the story is just don't give up on photos that you think might be garbage. Now, this is not a great photo. If I went and retook it, I can make it a lot better, but you would be surprised what you can get out of a shoot, even if you don't think you have much. So, while Lightroom is a powerful tool, don't forget that I, in a way, ruined this photo by doing way too much to it and not doing very well on the first shoot. I can't really make a print out of it. I can't do a lot with it other than small resolutions online. But at the same time, I made it work. I got my photo for Instagram. I like how it looks. So even if you have a bunch of bad photos, don't be afraid to at least throw them in Lightroom and see if you can make something happen. At the very least, you might learn a thing or two. You know, I didn't know about the dust and scratches until I took this photo and I was like, whoa, what's all that confetti doing in my picture? So try and treat everything as a learning opportunity, even if you're not getting the best photo. And, you know, just mastering your craft, learning more about Lightroom, learning what to do next time. You know, if you just look at a photo and you don't learn anything from it, then you might just make the same mistake next time you shoot. So once again, my name's Josh Winiarski. Check me out on Instagram if you're interested. And as always, if you like the video, be sure to like it. If you have any questions, have any comments, hit up that comment section down below. And if you want to see more videos about photography, videography, filmmaking, content creation, vlogging, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.